Hello and welcome to OpCon 2024's Exalted panel. I'm your host, Terry Robinson, producer for Systematic Understanding of Everything, a Exalted podcast that people are just still listening to, and it both warms and concerns me. I am joined by Exalted developers Danielle, Elliot, and Monica, and we are going to run down the publications currently in works. So if you want to introduce yourselves and tell me kind of what you're working on, Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle Lozon. I am the Exalted Overseer for the entire third edition line. I, sorry, I just saw hearing you pronounce OPPCon that way made my brain lurch. And same, actually. OpCon, what's wrong with you? So anyway, I am the in-house developer for Exalted. I manage the Exalted line for all of third edition, which means every book comes through me. No, I do not read them all. I trust my developers to make good books, and I read the parts that I'm interested in reading. Some of them I do have to read because developers need help, and then I will hop in and read and do what I can. Otherwise, yeah, that's me.
Elliot?
I am Elliot Freeman. I have been a co-developer on Exigence, which is finally starting to exist out in the world, Sidereals, which is out to our backers, Abyssals, which is currently continuing its resurrection from the dead. And then I just write on a whole bunch of other things that I'm lucky to get to work on with some great people.
And Monica.
Hello, I'm your Exalted Essence guy. What if I just left it there and then
That's
was like,
fine.
that's it,
Yep.
And just left.
and just
Even at
left,
that.
like ignoring
Rotate the
every
banner
other
90 degrees and we're good.
we're ignoring every other contribution I've made to any other book. It's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I did that. Goodbye. I also co-developed Crucible of Legend and have contributed writing to a significant number of third edition books, including Alchemicals and Abyssals, and a bunch of the other splats before then. And you've probably read a bunch of my fiction. And
Does does everyone here have an OPP EGOT of
What?
EGOT?
Chronicles? Yeah. Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
Oh,
Chronicles, World of Darkness, Exalted, and then either Trinity or They Came From?
oh, I do.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
Wait. Exalted Chronicles, World of Darkness,
World of Darkness, yeah.
Trinity,
Yep.
Scion.
Zion.
They came from
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have They Came From.
Yeah.
I do have They Came
Pugmire,
From.
Okay.
Okay.
Pugmire. I also have Pugmire.
Cavaliers of Mars,
Don't have
Dystopia
Cavaliers.
Rising.
Don't have Dystopia.
Zion?
I said Scion.
She already said Zion.
Oh,
Yeah.
she said Zion. Okay.
I've been under NDA for all of those, but not actually written for any of them. But so let's kind of go through what most recently came out. There's been a delightful slew of Exalted stuff that's come out into the world. Would anyone like to talk about the recent release or relatively recent release of Across the Eight Directions?
Uh, Elliot, Monica, did either of you work on that?
I did not.
I did. So I got to write a little bit on it. I want to say, was that Eric and Lauren?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
They did some amazing, painstaking work that just kind of brought what Exalted Third Edition is really aiming for to lots of legacy aspects of the setting, where you're trying to make it feel messy, you're trying to make it feel lived in, you're trying to make it feel like real and human, and room for mortals to matter and exalts to matter. And I think they did a fabulous job with that, while also giving us lots of cool, new, terrifying places, including like the entirety of the Dreaming Sea, which is really getting its due for the first time since it was new for third edition.
I think the Dreaming Sea is just a wonderful addition to the world, filling in what was really kind of a blank space in the map previously, where it was just like, here's like Nexus, and then like the Deep East, where we got Rathus and Mahalanka fucking off over there, and then like nothing, and then the South. And
Mhm.
so it really kind of fills in a space that had not been explored before in a marvelous way.
Yeah, I just to throw in there that I looked at Across the Eight Directions when it came out because I was like, yeah, let me take a look at this book. It's like the definitive setting book for Exalted. And there were more than 8 directions.
Yeah.
I
Across
was,
the 12 through 15 directions. Yes.
yeah.
Look, we want to bring bonus value to our customers,
Across
including
the
extra
8 or more
directions.
directions.
It's
Yes.
a baker's 8 directions.
Yeah, it adjusts 8 adjusted for inflation since the release of Exalted. Okay.
It's
Right.
it's it's like those numbers on toilet paper packages that are
Oh,
like
yes.
12 equals 96.
Yes, 12 rolls equals 18 sheets of, yes, just like the paper towel math.
Yeah. Like 8 directions equals 12 directions.
And that's how the wild gets in.
Yeah.
I appreciate the just because I'm cool, the appendix where it's like where it says things like, how does the sky work? To which it goes, nerd. And then gives guide to a storyteller to be like, hey, if players start raising fundamental questions about this, remember this is Exalted. It is not a physics engine. Here's how you can deal with those things.
I really like
But
thinking about the physics of a fantasy world, but not, I don't want my game book to tell me about it.
the one thing I do wish Exalted had is the fact that, okay, we got a flat plane, we've got the ecliptic of the sky. I do like the idea that every area has a different solar maximum. So if you're in the east, solar maximum occurs at dawn, and if you're in the west, it occurs at dusk. So everyone has a midday that's at the same time, but the actual brightest time of the day would be different. That's the only weird difference that I would want. But that's just me. You know, I'll put that in the
When
storyteller's fault.
when you run for us, that can be the case.
Yes.
Yes. I like the idea that if I were to run a game for the dev, even there at my own table, I would be overruled and be like, no, that's not how that works.
We're gonna
get to
show
do
up,
that.
be like, Terry wrote a game for us. We're all gonna show up. You can be like, I want to do this take on it in my game, and we're all
No.
like, no, except that you're
No.
contractually not allowed.
Yeah. You're not allowed to do that until your final drafts are in. Then you can start editing the world. Thanks. So, if you're curious about more information on Across the Eight Directions, systematic understanding of everything, did an episode on it. It is hard to express the sheer amount of information in this book. I just assumed, like most non-core books, it was going to be like maybe 96 to 150 pages. It's 320.
Yeah,
There's a lot of book in the book.
there's a lot of directions in there. That we've hit so many directions in this baby.
Yeah.
Slap the roof of the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can fit so many directions in this book.
Yeah. But some other books have come out. What else has come out, Terry, to ask us about?
Well, I figure we'll move on to Elliot. You mentioned that Exigents are now out into the wild, and I don't think we reached the stretch doll for the Straw Maiden Janus like papercraft dress up doll like you got in a kids magazine.
Yeah,
when
that
you'd be
never
like, "This
that
is
never
business
even
Janus."
showed up. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So Elliot, would you like to talk about Exigents?
So, for Exigence proper, we are just really glad that folks have been getting the chance to play with like the finalized version. We went in with some feedback and got lots of little treats in there, as well as also having some fabulous art pieces. There's a few of Janice that I think are just top
Oh
tier.
yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, she gets to be a wonderful, scary, down-to-earth folk hero, and seeing that actually come to life has been tremendously fun.
When you say down to earth folk hero, I just picture Straw Maiden Janus with her grim scythe being, "Hello, fellow down to earth farmer folk." a la Steve Buscemi, trying to hide her like high essence.
Oh yeah.
So in addition to just Straw Maiden Janus, kind of what were the other key elements or classes of exalts that kind of made it, and just at the high level, what is an exigent? What makes them different from other types of exalts?
Sure. So exigents are one of the big inventions of third edition. They are creating space in the setting for tons and tons of unique exalts for little gods. So the idea is if you are a god, you can pray to the unconquered sun for a spark of the exigence. And if he grants your prayer, then you get your spark and you can use it to create a champion. And much like pulling on the world's most dangerous gotcha, you're never quite sure what you're going to get because you could get like a terrestrial tier single champion whose exaltation will die with them. You could get like a small cadre of potential exigent champions who may or may not have some sort of reincarnation going. You could get someone who is really going to like you. You could get someone who's going to hate you. Uh, and oftentimes, gods who create an exigent pay the price for it. Either they lose some tremendous amount of their power, or much of the time they get burned up by it entirely. But it gives us this wonderful space in the setting to have lots of like unique, weird one-offs that can be really embodied in particular play areas. So like, we've got the sovereigns of Ulu, who are just their whole own little exigent type, but having them be something specific gives them a lot of really fun interactions with the setting, with other players, ways that storytellers and groups can use them.
So, in addition to the sovereigns, what other exigents do we get, or is there a particular one that you were pleased with how it turned out?
So the sovereigns are my sparkly glam babies, and I love them dearly. But Pak Pao, the puppeteer, is also just one of the nastiest people, or potentially one of the nastiest people. Her combat suite is basically you you don't want to fight me. You might win, but you're not going to have fun doing it. Um, and so we've got Janice, the Pak Pao, the puppeteer, the sovereigns, and then the architects, who are the chosen of various cities. So they were our four core exalts uh, for the exigence, and then there might be more in the exigence companion that people will get to see.
Ah, yes, the Exigent's Companion, and its lesser known but still fully valid companion, which we had to make because we didn't want our companion to be larger than the core for Exigence, and it was going to be if we included the two full Exigent types with all of the stretch goal and other like types of stuff that we were going to do. So we broke it down into two
You didn't want to
books.
join the exalted halls of Mummy the Resurrection for a game where the companion was larger than the core book?
No, I actually
Okay.
didn't. And now the full exigents get their own little kind of book, which meant that we got to shove a whole new exigent type into that book that wasn't originally planned on. So
I also like the idea that you're like, hello, I am an exigent. This is my horse, and my horse has his own pony.
yes,
As it just kind of continues to go. I also like in the index that it has like offensive effects, and I first read that as like things that they do that are politically incorrect to stun and amaze other people. I'm like, oh no, that's not what this game is about. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
In addition to that, Exigence is kind of interesting in that just about every one of the core books also includes some ancillary material that in some way fleshes out the setting. Like in Lunars, we got more information about maybe areas outside of the realm. In Dragon Blooded, we got more information kind of on the operations of the realm and so on. What kind of ancillary bits came in Exigence? I know there's a bit on like kind of the role and nature of religion within creation that I thought was pretty neat.
So, oh,
no, I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that either.
It's an Elliot question.
so for Exigence, our ancillary material primarily comes from like information about Great Forks, which is kind of the exigent capital of the world.
Mhm.
So it gets a lot of time to shine as the wonderful, horrible, decadent city that it is. As a matter of fact, decadent is one of its like alternative names. We also got to actually, as you pointed out, Terry, get into like advice for homebrewing exalted material because so much of Exigence was supposed to be about empowering people to like make mistakes, get messy, go full on frizzle with homebrew at your own tables. Um, and so that necessitated a pretty hefty chunk of word count along with our effects index to help people really quickly like grab references for various power levels so they can say like, okay, I've got a terrestrial. What does a terrestrial decisive damage adding effect look like?
And it is non-trivial to tune that in. So I just assume that you suspended Vance in like a nutrient slurry and just had someone act as an amanuensis and just write down everything they said in their like prophetic Sibylline state.
Mm,
Um,
That's just how the whole thing works, actually.
yeah.
yeah.
I once saw how many words Vance did in each of the core books, and the author page should just be replaced with Vance and Friends.
Yeah.
And I would be perfectly fine to be excluded.
I sometimes just imagine Vance as like one of the shrine lords from Breath of the Wild, just entombed somewhere, and every time someone does one of the puzzles, it creates a new chart.
mm, yes. You're
Yeah.
getting deep lore on the Exalted lore now.
Yeah, well, we went to a little like friend work retreat and Vance was just writing charms the entire fucking time. I was like, "What are you doing, sir?" They were just like, I was like, "What are you doing? Are you doing work?" "No, but I need to get these charms done." I think it was for, was it for Exigence? No, I
Did you
think
give them a wedgie then?
I
Like,
It might have
wanted
been
to. I
Sidereals.
think it was for Sidereals, yeah. And I think it was before Sidereals had been contracted. I don't remember.
that sounds appropriate.
Yeah.
In the same way that anytime like Mel Yoran can't sleep or something, just Exalted Art comes out the other end. That is what Vance does as kind of a nighttime ritual. I still have the theory that there's a Trapper Keeper somewhere from the early 2000s containing all Mel's Exalted Art, and we are just slowly pulling things out of that as more books come out.
I'm pretty sure that Mel has a stack of Exalted art that's
God,
just,
when you made that joke to me, and I was like, you don't know how right you are.
yeah, I'm pretty sure she's like shown us stacks of old Exalted art that's just like paper upon paper upon paper.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I guess will be my reply.
Yeah.
So just to not to have a break, Monica, what is kind of in process or what has come out recently for Exalted Essence?
Nothing has come out. The book itself came out, which is not news. That's been out for a little
But that's
bit.
a lot still.
The jump
I don't know
start
when
just
people are
came
listening
out.
to
Oh
this.
shit! The Jumpstart just came out. I forgot about it. I helped
Two
develop
movie
it, and
boys,
I
these bitches.
fucking forgot about it. I'm so sorry. David's probably watching this. I'm so sorry. Uh, yes, the Jumpstart just came out, so you can convince all of your D&D playing friends to play through a starter adventure where they don't even have to make their own character. The Jumpstart is a classic Tomb of Exalted adventure. It is designed to onboard your players into understanding the world. It doesn't require a deep amount of lore. It is structured in a way that allows your players to kind of look at the prompt they've been given and then go where they want to go with it. It's kind of pretty loosely structured where it's like, if they make this choice, here's a bunch of scenes that can happen. If they make this choice, here's a bunch of scenes that can happen. Here are a bunch of plot beats that tie the whole thing together. Play them in whatever order makes sense. Here's a bunch of information. So if someone uses one of those pesky question asking charms, you know how to answer them. It comes with an example character for each of the 10 Exalt types in the book. So it comes with 10 pre-made characters that Elliot made.
I was waiting for there to be a cross the eight direction logic. So it's like there are 10 types, so it comes with 17 characters.
Yes.
And there's some advice for like some of the adventure is set up so that you will play the pre-made characters. It is designed to be played with the pre-mades. If you aren't a big fan of that, you can just make a character that matches the type and then just swap them in. You may want to give them the same motivation because the whole story is kind of set up around these particular characters being there or not being there. There's a lot of like, this scene, if this character is present, this thing might happen. If this character is not present, this might happen. You know, it's pretty flexible, because I don't think you can put Exalted on rails in any capacity.
Yeah.
It is a game designed to put a lot of narrative control in the hands of the players, and to kind of have a back and forth between who keeps things going, the players, the storyteller. And if you, that is like, I think since we're talking about an onboarding game, the number one thing to consider if you are one of the new people brought in because you were interested in Essence and you want to play this for your D&D people, you have to understand that this will be a back and forth thing. You will take control back from them and they will take control back from you, and you guys have to be okay with that kind of back and forth relationship.
And sometimes the player hands the game world back to you and go, oops, I broke it.
I braked it. It
Yeah.
takes a little while to get there, but that does
Yeah.
happen. Yes.
Yes. So
It is very much designed to appeal to the people you might meet at a game store, because that's where we want you to play it. We want you to bring in your D&D friends. We want you to bring in your friends who have never played an RPG. We want you to, run it as a community day at your friendly local gaming store or online or whatever. And it's the barrier to entry is real low. It is a find the MacGuffin adventure. It is real easy to understand, and it was designed that way on purpose.
Yes.
So that's the new thing that came out. Again, I'm sorry, David, that I forgot that we did this. I've been so focused on some other things.
yeah.
Well, I think we could talk about like what else is. We're talking about what's coming out. Never mind. I'm gonna let Terry keep that on track.
We're still waiting on art for Pillars, which is in art direction. So whenever that art comes back,
what is Pillars?
Pillars of Creation is the crowdfunded Exalted Essence companion. If you were unfamiliar with it, it is all the stretch goals from the enormously successful Exalted Essence Kickstarter. There are the Architects and Sovereigns are playable in Pillars. That's where their new stuff shows up, and their beginner charm sets are in there. It has an expansion for all the stuff from the core, a shitload of new artifacts and hearthstones, including things that backers determined. Your backer requested charms are all in there. I think a bunch of the backer requested characters went into the adventure set, which is also still in production. I think a couple of the backer characters are on the cover of Pillars, perhaps. They're in a bunch of Pillars art. I'm not sure about the cover. I know some of the other backer characters are in adventure art as well, the Deeds Yet Undone art. So if Pillars comes out and you are like, where is my guy? They may be in the adventures.
They're probably in Deeds Yet Undone,
yeah, they're probably in Deeds Yet Undone because we split them up just to kind of get a different.
There were a lot of characters.
There were a lot of characters, and not all of them fit in the art for Pillars, but they did work better for the adventure, so we split that up.
Yeah.
That also contained a few extra playable, or at least suggestions for playable types, no?
Yes.
Yeah, Architects, Sovereigns, and then we did like a little design seed for the Apocryphal Exalt. So Umbrals, what are the other two? Dream Sold. Yep. Yeah. Is there one more? Umbrals and Dream Sold?
The Heart Eaters, but they're...
Heart Eaters are in they're antagonist only, so they're in the antagonist section, and the Spoken also antagonist only, so they're in the antagonist section. If you want to play a Ghost Whale or the evil skeletons from outer space, you can reverse engineer those, but they are not being presented as player character options.
I know I'm new to Exalted, but Ghost Whale, is that WHALE or WAIL?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, as in a cetacean. Ghost cetaceans, I really should have said.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can be a ghost orca or a ghost dolphin if you like. Or rather, your enemies could be ghost orcas or dolphins. Yeah, they're not limited to just whales. And Heart Eaters are way more complicated than evil skeletons from outer space, but that was the first thing that came to mind. I just saw your note. Yes, also Dragon Kings are a playable option. They have a couple of rules for just playing a regular Dragon King, though like Essence is really focused on playing the Exalted and the Exalted equivalents. So like you can, it's not a great idea, but you can. But they have the Dragon Kings have a form where they can like merge with a god and become what's called an Ochulika, which is basically an exigent. You design them like an exigent. And that is meant for mixed play with Exalts. There's a bunch of design guidance for how to make your Ochulika, which is very similar to how you make your exigent. They get an active, a passive, and iconic anima effect. Their passive comes from the type of Dragon King they are, and then their active and iconic come from being an Ochulika. Let's see what else. Oh, and there's also some rules for playing like a God Blood, an Extraordinary Mortal, a Wild Mutant. There's it was called Extraordinary Heritage, And it's got a bunch of rules for playing a guy who is not an Exalt or an Exalt who came from somewhere weird. And then we use the Lintha as the example type of weird guys in the setting who use this rule. And then there's a couple examples of like, this Lintha character is an Exalt, and here's how you would model it. This Lintha character is a regular guy, here's how you would model it. And then there's the setting section has a whole bunch of expansions of places that we didn't touch on in the core, including a couple places that are not at I almost said at the eight directions.
A weird crossover
towards the great directions.
Towards the eight directions. There's a couple places that are not in there, including Harborhead. So if anyone was looking forward to seeing Harborhead, it is in Pillars. And I think is Ixcoatli in Across the Eight Directions? Do we know? Dead silence. So I'm gonna go with no. That's also in Pillars.
I mean, I could attempt to try and spell that. I'm just like IX, and that's about as far as I could get, and that doesn't narrow it down.
Okay.
And then I immediately got 6. But
okay, cool. I don't think it is, but it is also in Pillars. Y'all also crowdfunded a shit ton of martial arts to the point that it is its own chapter.
Yes.
It is separate. There were so many of them, we separated it from the charm section.
Yes.
There is a complete list of them, like pinned, I think, on the fan Discord, and has certainly been linked on the official Onyx Path Discord, because y'all are very thorough. So out there, like, there is a complete list of them, and I don't remember what they all are without opening up all my documents right now, but it is a long list, including a very comprehensive sidereal martial arts section, which the Essence Core only had Prismatic Arrangement of Creation in it, and the Pillars section includes the other classic ones, Citrine Foxes and Charcoal March. Then a bunch of other ones that third edition had done, because Sidereals was starting development around the same time, so we picked up some of the ones that were in Sidereals, but not all of them, and brought back Scarlet Patterns of the Battlefield, which is now slightly retitled from it was not Scarlet Patterns of the Battlefield, it was something like that.
Scarlet Banners? Or...
It's definitely Scarlet Patterns, but we rearranged it to fit the naming convention slightly. But if you were a big Scarlet Patterns fan, or liked the idea of Scarlet Patterns from second edition, but didn't like the fact that it didn't do anything, now it's now it's great. It got such a big blow up. The Essence version of Scarlet Patterns is awesome, to the point where I was annoyed that my Sidereal that I'm currently playing in our home game doesn't have any dots of war, and so therefore can't take it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So we also have Sidereals went to backers. So that's, I know, Elliot's baby. And then what else has come out? I guess
there's also the novels, no?
the novellas have been coming out also, like, Crucible of Legend came out, but I don't remember when that came out.
That's been a bit.
Has it been a bit?
Oh yeah, it's been out for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it is. I think it has been in the last year.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it came out this year, or did it come out at the end of last year?
End of last year. It's listed as added to the catalog on August 9th and updated November 7th.
Okay, cool.
Of 2023.
Cool. Then I'm not going to talk about it. So Sidereal is to backers, and so we have a bunch of stuff in the works right now. So let's talk about what we have in the works and then what's upcoming. So what we have in the works is the big one, alchemicals. So that is in progress. If you keep up with the Monday meeting notes, there's a lot going on with that. We are hoping to crowdfund it this year. I don't know if that will happen. If it may be the first one we do next year. It really just depends on what our timeline is, because we're crowdfunding Curseborn on October 1st, come hell or high water, which means the rest of our crowdfunding schedule is kind of wrapped and warped around the curse. So people are asking for some alchemical spoilers. Does anybody who has written on alchemicals, we don't have the developers here, unfortunately, but does anybody who's written on it have anything that they would like to share?
I'll say something. I see Elliot thinking. Your
Yeah.
wheels are turning. And
Yeah.
like, I'll let you think about what you wrote a lot more than I did. So I'll let you think about what you want to do. So I wrote the far reaches section. And when I was pitching my hat in the ring for like assignments, I was like, give me things that are scary and fucked up because that's all I want to do. And Chaz slid me the far reaches section and was like, go nuts. And I did. And it's gross and it's scary. And I'm gonna just leave it at that because I'm still working on my red lines, so I don't want to reveal anything that's not done yet. But I got a couple compliments on my notes of like, "Oh, that's horrible. I love it." So,
Yes,
um,
good. I love that.
so I'll put that one up there. I also this fiction was split between three people. Usually there's like a lot of people who do each little chapter fiction, and this time they split it up between three folks, and I was one of the people who did a third of the chapter fiction. Um, and I look forward to all of you reading those as well.
I'm not going to say that they're gay, but I'm pretty sure they're
Oh yeah, at
extremely
least
gay.
one of them is very very gay.
Yeah, I
Um,
just know Monica, and
yeah, well,
therefore,
it was also the prompt. The prompt was gay.
okay,
It
Just like the word printed out on a sheet of paper
just gay.
in
Gay.
Futura, and you're like, this I can work with.
Yes,
Yeah.
gay.
This I got.
Yeah, I just
Happy
received
Pride, just
a
gay.
little a little slip of paper and I unfolded it and it just said robot lesbians with a question mark and I said I understand.
And then you
Yes,
erased the question mark.
Yeah, the
You replaced it with an exclamation mark.
Exclamation point.
And
Yeah.
you're like, and you handed it back in, and everyone nodded.
Yeah.
Oh, so I do have dispensation from Vance and Chaz, who are the developers of Alchemicals, to say that like one of the big guiding lights for this new edition is both like giving Autochthonia and the Octet nations that same messy treatment that Exalted Third Edition does. Which in some ways Autochthonia was already a place where like mortals actually got to matter, but it was fun to see how people and the team who was on it has really brought so much interesting texture and nuance to it. But it was one of the guiding ideas was that it was going to be less oppressively bleak. It's still going to be a very like difficult setting, a hard place to live in, a very kind of alien place, but it needed to be somewhere that was still worth saving in a different way, not just like completely reformatting.
Yeah.
And kind of one of the recurring themes is the idea that it almost doesn't matter what the where is as long as you have your who. Like, I almost don't care where my family is located. I still want my family to do well and thrive.
Mhm.
And just over thousands of years being inside the machine god, you kind of get used to stuff. Like, I think the other thing that was ramped up is the moments of strange beauty that come inside of this thing that is floating through the void. What does it look like when you don't have a sun, but periodically a lightning arc will occur off through a 1,000-mile wide chasm and illuminate a block of orichalcum the size of Venus? Like, it needs to be awe-inspiring. It needs to be wonderful, especially when you are playing characters like the alchemicals who at the top end of their power range turn into a city.
Mhm.
Like, the setting has to be able to bring it as well. And I only got to write on two of the bits, but just how do we give each place a distinctive culture? How do we make it matter? And the thing I found super interesting in it is the fact that mortals are so important. Like in creation, you can kind of wave your hand and say that everyone is a poor turd farmer. But like when your job is literally to maintain the planet being that you're inside of, everyone gets to feel important. And I think that reiterates kind of one of the themes of place, people, and utopia. And what does it mean when we can all do well? Because that's not something that's normally in the exalted setting. Not everyone gets to win, but in Autothonia for the first time, maybe that's a glimmer. And it's not, I'm not saying that's what the book's necessarily about, but as someone who comes in from the outside, whenever I see a new thing, I like the sidereals because they rarely get clean victories. They're one of the few things that's constantly dealing with things more powerful than them. So each exalt type gets its own themes in place, and the ones that Autothonian gets to play with, it's not just you necessarily being the people's champion, but also you, for that to be the case, you have to have a sense of the people. And I feel that comes through in what I've seen so far of alchemicals.
Yeah.
Much like Monica asked to do the weird, horrifying stuff and got the far reaches, they were nice enough to grant my request to do lots of weird, mystical bullshit, which meant both continuing to have so much fun with sorcery and micro world building, but also doing some stuff with the machine spirits and especially like giving the sub ministers some love who have never really uh, felt like interesting characters, which is a shame because the 8 divine ministers themselves are like peak world building to me in a lot of ways. Because you get interesting like combinations where the goddess of creativity and efficiency and productivity is also the goddess of reproduction, and you get all sorts of like fun little things like that, but giving the sub ministers more time to shine and be interesting and cool little setting nuances that can give us that weird alien flavor is a delight.
I
Yay.
think it's also really important to note that one really big change to Autochthonia is that it is no longer a place that people don't want to be.
Uh,
Like the I don't know if we're ditching the Locust Crusade, right? Like, or is that still a thing that's potentially happening?
I don't
It is
know.
Okay.
in nowhere in the outline is it put to the fore.
Okay. Then if
I
it's
will put
still
it that way.
happening, it's then an outlier
Yeah.
of people and rather than the norm, right? Like that's we're not doing that anymore. The whole point isn't to just go to creation to just steal everything that's green. People actually kind of like living there.
yeah.
But life is hard,
Yeah.
and something is going to have to change. It's in the same way that the disappearance of the Scarlet Empress destabilized the realm. Autothonia is having issues, but they are tractable, and that is where your characters notionally come in. And just having that set of 8 cultures that are so clearly defined, I think also erases kind of a sense of exoticism that can sometimes creep into games. This has much more of a kind of League of Nations feel where it's like, yes, your people do it differently than mine, but obviously you do it that way for a reason. I'm not here to mock you. And it just kind of changes the way that large bodies and organizations interact. Kind of in core Exalt, any large accumulation of power is the bad guy,
Mhm.
and that is not the case necessarily in Autothonia. And I think that's a neat angle as someone who likes that diplomatic style of play. So
Yeah. So I don't want to talk too directly about what's going to be coming in alchemicals because other than like these general tomes and themes and like directions, just because the book is still in the writing phases, people
yeah,
are doing their red lines. So anything that we think is happening could change. And so I don't want to make a promise or have somebody say, oh, I'm writing this really cool thing. And then it turns out that that really cool thing didn't quite fit. So we're not going to talk in specific about any of that.
brief bees.
But instead, we're going to move on and talk about. I will talk a little bit about the Exigence companion and its companion. John Crumple Punch, as most of you know him, is
Crumple
developing
Punch is a
those.
name.
It's his handle. It's
I just assumed.
his
Okay.
name is John. He has a name, yes. So, yes, Miracles and Champions of the Divine Flame. Miracles of the Divine Flame has all of your design seeds, your stuff about Great Forks, your bunches of extra stuff that got funded either through stretch goals or through backer pledges. And then the additional supplement Champions of Divine Flame. Sorry, I'm reading while I'm talking, and I shouldn't do that. The additional supplement Champions of Divine Flame is 3 new full exigent types. The 2 wounds and knives that were backed by crowdfunding backers, and then we added a new third one, the March Lords, and they are cool. I didn't even really know how to describe their coolness.
Well, they're going to appear in something I'm going to talk about, so I can cover that for you.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much about them, but they're pretty cool. And so those are in production at various stages. Then we also have the Exigence Jumpstart in production, and we have the Sidereal's Companion in production, and then the thing that Monica is going to talk about is the Exalted Essence Player's Guide. And this is not a thing that was a stretch goal or anything like that. It is going to be its own first like big supplement that comes out for Exalted Essence. Tell us what that is, Monica.
Okay, so I know that there are a lot of people who are tuning in for this specifically. So here's the part you were all waiting for. Go grab your friend and post and yell and whatever, and be like, "Hurry, Monica's talking about the player's guide right now. Go, 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 go!
Do it.
Hurry, hurry! Quick,
They
like
can
a little
also
bunny."
just watch this later on YouTube.
Sure. Okay, so the Exalted Essence Player's Guide is the first major supplement for Essence. Not sure if there will be any more after this, but this is the first. It is a full expansion for all of the Exalt types. It is Exalt focused exclusively. I've got a lot of questions like, will there be Fairfolk in it? Will there be Dragon Kings in it? Will there be Godblooded in it? No, Exalt focused exclusively. So each chapter is its own, it belongs to each Exalt type. So Solars have their own chapter, Dragonblood have their own chapter, so on and so forth, right? Each Exalt type gets their own chapter. The Exigence chapter contains some expansions for Sovereigns and Architects, and the March Lords, and the God Admirals, which are another Exalt type from one of the companions.
Yes.
So there will be an Essence version of both of those, bringing the Essence Exigence up to 4 like multiple playable types. I really wanted Essence to focus on Exigence that were groups before individuals, because Essence is so focused on mixed splat play. I genuinely preferred that like dynamic of this character is from another group of people rather than a cool individual. You got an example of a cool individual, and that's Janice, and then we gave you a ton of rules for making your own really cool guy. The other iconic individual Exigence may very well be, this is planning to be kickstarted, right? Crowdfunded at some point.
That is the goal.
Okay.
We don't like, that is our initial thought. I cannot promise that it will be crowdfunded. It's really just kind of like, I have to do the thing where it's like, we don't have a crowdfunding schedule.
So with a big fat if it crowdfunds, there may be expansions in those stretch goals for things like the Pack Pow, the Puppeteer, the Bleak Warden, your other favorites, right?
Yeah.
But those would be expansions rather than what we wanted to focus on in the core.
Right.
So each Exalt chapter contains a full section on their themes and roleplay, why you would want to play them, thoughts about how to make a character, a handful of like example concepts if you want to be inspired by these like general ideas, or if you're like completely new and you're reading this and you're like, I don't really know what kind of guy is a Dragonblood. Well, here's like 3 sentences that indicate this is what kind of concept you might have. There are rules expansions for Exalt types that didn't have a lot of room to breathe in the core. So Lunar's has a shapeshifting expansion. Sidereal's has a Respond to Destiny expansion. Those are the 2 I can confirm firmly off the top of my head will in fact be in there and have been redlined and sent back to their authors. Like there's been a lot of effort to sort of try to fill in the gaps that neither the core nor pillars could get to. The thing that everyone wants is that each chapter has a full Exalt only charm set. And the size of it is like 3.5 times bigger than the core. So between core, pillars, and player's guide, each Exalt type will have a charm set that is roughly analogous to a 3rd edition charm set. So you'll have that full suite to play with. There may be universal charms. There's always the possibility in reviewing that I find a bunch of like 4 people had the same idea across 4 different charm sets that'll become universal. Sometimes solar charms are too general; they become universal. Anything that I think needs to be moved out of a Exalt set into a universal charm, there's an appendix for that, but there was no word count or author assigned to writing specific universal charms. So don't go into this expecting like a big universal charm section. There may also be some rules updates. We're still working on that. I don't want to promise too much there, but the thing I can distinctly say will happen: full chapter per Exalt type, real big charm section, role playing guide for each Exalt, and an appendix that will probably contain some universal charms.
Yep.
And expansions: God Admirals, March Lords. The God Admirals are like Sinbad meets Highlander. They have cool ship powers, and they have a there can only be one type thing. They have an apotheosis goal that's leading them to godhood, and they have to kill other god admirals, and one of their advantages like pings them when they know another one is around. So if you really want to play like the 7 Voyages of Sinbad, or if anybody's read The Adventures of Amin al-Sarafi, that's a phenomenal book, also a deep inspiration for that. And do like the seafaring, adventuring pirate, but also you're a Highlander. Yeah. That's their deal. And the March Lords are the defenders of creation's borders.
Yes.
They also have power over cartography. There was a little bit of Doctor Who influence put into their Essence version at the very least.
Yeah.
They are possessed by wanderlust, but also to like keep outside influences away from creation. And they have a little organization of like map makers and border enforcers who work together. And it has a really cool name, and I don't remember what it is, but that's their deal.
They're cartography nerds, and I love them.
Yeah.
Cool. So then the big announcement, which is only kind of a big announcement, because you're aware by this point that we are going to continue making our fat splats on a yearly basis, and Infernals was announced on Friday as our next fat splat, and it is in the vein of, yep, we're announcing it. We literally have no information to tell you about it right this moment, other than we are going to start working on like design ideas and outlining it and getting like some really, we've already been talking for, I guess at this point, like 6 months about Infernals among the dev team. So it will have a all the love it deserves to make it the very good game that it can be. We've already done a bit of work on it so that it could be included into Essence, and so all of that great work will be expanded upon and broken out to be its own great little thing. Let's see. It is close to time. Terry, do you want to ask about questions? I saw you put something in the chat, and I'm just gonna say it out loud that if I look at that chat, we'll go all over the OBS screen, so I can't actually open it.
Okay. So we've kind of done the rundown of upcoming content. Please continue to check the Monday meeting notes, check the monthly release update if you're curious where anything is. And now we have a few minutes for questions.
Yes.
To try and throw those into chat. Put the word question at the beginning or a question mark at the end. Otherwise, I will skip it. One of the questions that came up is, do we get any information anywhere on what the Getimians are and kind of how they work? And I guess I would throw that over to Monica, because they're fully playable in Essence.
Yes. Though like their deep lore will be saved for the 3rd edition book. Mm-hmm. The themes and roleplay section just talks a little bit more about like their deal and how that works when you are playing one and what you would want to buy into and all that. If you are looking for like the deep secrets about how the exaltation works, or like what's going on in Zenmu, or what what's his face is up to, we're not going to focus on that. It's mostly focused on the player aspect of things.
Reckon Leo and his merry men.
Yes, that Yes, that's the fucker. Yep.
Ah, yes, that fucker, that
Yeah.
tool.
Yeah. Do you want a Rackanthulio? This is how you get a Rackanthulio. One of the questions that came up is that we didn't talk about is Abyssals. Where is that in production?
Oh, yes. Right now, Abyssals has moved out of editing and into what we call the pre-art phase, where the developers are working on creating art notes and sending those off to Mike so that he can start contracting art. So there is it is essentially in a state of we have we have moved it forward, but it's going to take a little bit of time before y'all start seeing it, especially our backers. But I mean, we literally just finished the crowdfunding campaign for it in the end of November. And honestly, y'all, like, these Exalted books are flying through production at this point. They're huge. They are a huge undertaking from all the developers and writers involved. And the fact that Sidereals is to backers right now, while Exigence is like on sale right now and they were crowdfunded a year apart from each other, should tell you how well, they weren't quite a year apart. They were like
No, they were not. They
they
were
they were really
less
close.
than.
Yeah, they were less than a year apart. So they're going to come out less than a year apart. But essentially, y'all are seeing a lot of this is moving very quickly now. So
Okay. Ellie, can we release the full subtitle for Alchemicals?
I
I have it. Are we allowed to share it, or what the tentative one is, or?
I'm not
I'm
the developer on that
Oh,
one.
okay.
So D,
yeah, we can share it if you want.
Okay. Alchemicals forged by the machine god. Or at least that's what the outline I got as a writer says at the top of it. So if I'm wrong,
It was
apologies.
subject to change potentially.
Yeah,
but
subject to
that's-
change. Any idea when Essence will be available to write for on the Storyteller Vault?
Sorry.
Great question.
Yeah, I was just answering that in chat because we have
Okay,
no
sorry.
control over the Storyteller's Vault and we don't know anything about it.
Okay. Do we have any idea of what the release after Infernals is? There were a bunch of questions on the other.
Nope. We will
Okay.
announce that when we get to it.
Like, oh my God, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
please, Vance can only process so much slurry.
Yeah.
we gotta take them out of there and clean out the tubes sometime. Come on.
For anyone curious, that's a reference to the name of the movie with Tom Cruise is suddenly escaping me.
Which
it's the
one?
three-
I mean,
the precogs.
Minority
Report.
Yeah.
Yes. My spouse also thinks that if she were placed in a similar nutrient slurry, she could guess what pop culture food trends would be big 18 months from now. Okay.
Please tell her I love her.
I will do so. And Rhea still periodically just yells lesbian stripper ninja. So
Okay, please tell her I love her too.
okay, will do. Are there plans on there being errata or updates, e.g. solar charms with the versatile keyword?
I'm sorry.
That's a third edition question.
Yeah. Are there any plans for, I guess, errata or updates for third edition?
For core book stuff.
Yeah.
For the solar charms with the versatile keyword,
For this thing.
what is this thing?
This thing.
Exalted core.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
guessing.
This thing.
Oh, okay, that thing for the Exalted Core. No, there is no plan for that.
Got it. What is the status of Deeds Yet Undone?
Oh, the adventures. Yeah.
The adventures, they are in the process of getting art right now.
It's in the post-production queue with everything right now.
Yeah.
Written,
if I told
waiting
you,
for art.
yeah, it's waiting for art. And if you knew how many books were in the waiting for art queue right now, and how fast things move out of the waiting for art queue, it would make your head spin.
Okay. Are there any plans for official digital support, like an official character creation or character management software or anything like that?
Doesn't all that shit have to be approved by Paradox?
Yes.
So probably not.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
usually when somebody else who's really good at that stuff approaches Paradox and says, "Hey, I'd like to do that for this."
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's not really.
Is it reasonable to say that if someone was deeply interested in doing that, that they should contact Paradox about it, not us?
Yeah, they could do that.
So
Do
would
that
that be
pitch.
the would that be the reasonable thing to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we also just say that the fans have been curating some really cool resources over
Right.
on the fan cord?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
What might
Yep,
be the
there's
focus of?
Ellery.
Oh, go on.
Sorry. No, I was just saying. Good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What might be the focus of Infernals be in the player's guide? I assume the Essence player's guide.
Yes, it was the Essence Player's Guide that question
Yeah.
was about.
Okay. I mean, it's gonna talk about what every section talks about, which is like their themes and like how you relate to other people in your circle and why you would choose to play that, and a little player guide for like, especially for the more antagonistic Exalted, not being a dick when you are playing at your table or being a heel in a fun way. And so it's sort of focused on that sort of thing. Again, if you are looking for deep lore, this is not the place for deep lore. The third edition book is revving up, and that will be the place for like cool locations in Malpheus and like relationships Infernals might have with demons. And we're going to hint at that in the Essence section, but we're not going to dive into it because again, this is mostly a mechanical book, and it is an extremely ambitious mechanical book. And the focus is again on player content, not necessarily on lore. So,
And is it safe to say, Monica, that because kind of one of the things that Essence does pretty well is cross-exalt type play, that kind of creation tends to be the core of activity to it?
generally, yeah.
Yeah.
Not to say that you couldn't play a mixed game in Malpheus, because you sure could, but it's not the primary focus. And we still really, even though we're providing you a ton of mechanical content, we still do want you to buy third edition stuff for the good deep lore and all the fiction and stuff that's in there and all the work that we put into building the world. And Essence will continue to not eat third edition's lunch in that regard. It is supplemental to 3. So I'm sorry if that's a disappointing answer.
Who is currently on Vance Tube cleaning duty?
Was that from Ray?
Yes.
That was from Red.
Yes.
From
I
what
want to know
understand,
that I can't see the chat, and I knew that was you.
Yeah.
You, if you're not lucky, if you keep this up.
It goes to either who most wants to become the next dev or which writer is most behind on their submissions. So soon that will be me. Can you tell us more about the Exigence Companion? I have forgotten.
No, that is from Crumple, who is developing them. They can eat a dick.
Okay. Dick consuming invocation, I think, is the charm name for that.
Isn't there a like exalted, like racy exalted book or something like
Swallowed Darkness.
Swallowed Darkness. There you go.
How will deeds be structured?
Oh, the adventures in Deeds will be formatted very similarly to the way the Jumpstart is, where they are all flexible plots. And I believe that Deeds adventures also scale. So I think there's a high essence adventure in there specifically, and a starter adventure, and then a mid one, I think. I may be making that up. Dee, do you know for sure? I should have asked Heather before I did this, but I didn't think about it.
Say what you said again, only slower.
The adventures in Deeds Yet Undone have a scale to them, right? There's a starter level 1, there's a middle 1, and then a high essence 1?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Sort of. They focus on different areas of action a little bit.
Okay.
And you can kind of play they're not in ordered that way, but you can kind of play at least one of them at any level. Oh, H.
I'm right. Thank
You're
you.
right. Fucking H. She could just type, but instead.
No.
Didn't even close my office door on the way out.
What rude.
Spousal visits presentation. Yes.
All right. Any more
Okay.
questions? We
The
get
last
quick.
one
We have
was
one more.
yeah, is how many War Striders do we get in the Essence Companion, or more? I guess does the Essence Companion contain War Striders?
Yes, it does indeed contain War Striders, and I can tell you how many are in there specifically in just a second as I open that draft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's like okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
nice.
Yep.
4 War Striders.
Oh
Yep,
yeah, it
4.
was. Yeah, Ray answered it in the chat.
Okay.
Give them a freebie.
1 out of every 7 directions gets a War Strider. Got it.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of art direction, why is one of the hyperlinks and across the 8 directions golden instead of blue or purple like the rest? Probably because someone failed to mention it during the review period.
Yes, that is exactly why.
Yeah, I thought so.
That
Production is hard.
that is no, that is character that has been added to the book to give it a little charm.
Value add.
It's
Yeah.
a value add.
Feature, not bug.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. If you missed the earlier portions of this or would like to revisit it, it will be available on YouTube later. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
All right.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you. Have a good evening, afternoon, whatever time it is for you.
Yeah. Pleasant time zones to everyone.
Yes.